The first place we're going to start here is alerts and policies. This is where you're going to primarily go to when you're configuring this for your customers, because every customer is different on what they want to record. So to do that, you want to go down here to Recorder Policies. All right, and you're going to have 3 out of the box, one for Windows, Mac, and Android. Now, the thing I want to point out here is you can create as many policies as needed. For instance, we have some customers that will create it based off of departments, such as accounting, sales, marketing, and so forth. Then we have others that will have different branch offices, and they'll want to create different recorded policies for those. So let's say you're monitoring someone in the US versus the United Kingdom. There may be differences on what you have to record for those. So you can create, again, as many policies as you want. You might also want to create one labeled high risk. That could be assigned to a high risk department, such as an accounting department, or if you're in finance, maybe you want to look at what your trade desk users might be doing. Again, you can create as many as you want, apply it much like a group policy to those target machines, and that's the type of recorder settings you'll get. Even after the recorder's been deployed, any adjustments you make to your policies, the clients check in and pull it down. So let's kind of go through what a Windows one looks like. It's also going to record the same exact thing for Mac. So I'm just going to go over to the Windows one. And to do that, just click Initial Windows Policy and then Modify. Now we have the recorder policy. Again, these are defaulted. Everything is turned on. If you deploy this out to one of your clients, this is the default settings you're going to get if you don't make any modification. So it's best that you sit down with the customer, find out what their needs are, and then let them know exactly what they're going to capture and whether or not you need to turn off some of these features, maybe such as recording emails or keystrokes. So you may create that policy and then assign it to their machines, while another customer might say, we want to record emails and keystrokes. All right, so it's best to go through all of these one by one, become familiar with them. The best way to do that is if you click on a particular setting, like Chat and IM for instance, and you want to know what does it do before I modify it. If you click the help for that particular setting, it'll bring you to the overview on what it does, but more importantly, its subsettings too. That goes for every feature throughout the recorder policy. Now I'm going to start with Chat and IM first. Let you know how this can be used. One, it can be used for productivity concerns. Are employees wasting time chatting with buddies, maybe on the outside through Facebook or Google Hangouts? It could also be used to detect disgruntled employees. Typically, they'll start out with a chat, and there's certain keywords you can pick up with that chat to have indicators that something might be going wrong. All right, so we can record both sides of a chat, whether it's internal base, Skype for Business, Microsoft Communicator or Link, and other ones out there, but we also look at the web-based chatting too, Facebook, Google Hangouts. Now let's say a user deletes the history of that chat. Well, because we've captured it at the application level as well, we have both sides of it for you. And again, we can pick up on any keywords and alert you if something nefarious has taken place. So it could be used for, again, detecting disgruntled employees, productivity concern, but also data leakage. That's a great way that they can open, sensitive company information, copy it to clipboard, paste it in the chat, and then erase the history of it. You would have no record, but we have every bit of that for you. Another thing that they can do is if they have Skype, dragging and dropping a file within the chat can quickly exfiltrate it to the outside. So we'll also see that for you. The next one down is websites visited. Plain and simple, it's going to capture every website that a user goes to. Now the cool thing with how we do it is we utilize 3 unique time metrics. It's called active, focus, and total time. The best way for me to show you that is actually through a browser. So we have Chrome open here, and I'm on the Veriato help page. So think of active time as your keyboard and mouse activity. So that's me typing, scrolling, or clicking through the website for this tab. Everything else is out of focus right now. So as soon as I click over here to Google, active and focus time just paused for that tab, and focus time resumed for the Google timer. If I was to type in here, I'm active again on it. And then total time is from the time you actually open it to the time you close each tab. All right, so we're giving you those 3 metrics for every tab open. All right, then if I minimize Google Chrome, now focus time and active time paused, but it's still running in the background down here, so total time continues to calculate. You can get metrics on how much time our employees, browsing the internet. Are they browsing the internet on business-related applications or unapproved applications? Or unapproved websites, for that matter. Email activity will do just that. It's going to record all your internal email going through Exchange or Lotus Notes, but also webmail. That's the big one nowadays, because a lot of companies may already have it covered through their Exchange and journaling, but we'll be able to capture all of it and quickly identify what's going on, because we record everything related to the email. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get into the data. Now, the ports down here, you typically do not have to modify these at all, unless the network admin changed them. If they did, you don't want to delete what's here by default, but you just want to hit the space bar and add a new port, or whatever the port is assigned. Okay, same thing with websites visited. If you're going through a proxy server, typically it's 8080, but some admins will change that. So if they did, you just come in here, hit space bar, and add the new port. Okay, so email activity will give you productivity metrics as well. How many emails is our sales team or marketing team sending out? So we'll give you everything related to the email or versus what they're receiving in. Files transferred. This is anything that they could upload or download through the internet, such as FTP, peer-to-peer. You'll log into Gmail and you upload or download an attachment. That's considered an HTTP or HTTPS upload or download to us. Going back to the Skype transfer of the file, this will pick that up too. Keystrokes typed, think of this as a full-blown keylogger. It can be used for data entry, folks. How many keys are they typing throughout the day, because we do calculate total keys. And then it could also be used for privileged users, maybe administrators, contractors, or vendors that may log into your servers. What type of maintenance are they doing? I want to know what commands my SQL admins are typing in, that type of thing. And we'll record it in both raw and formatted. Formatted is the end result. For instance, if I was to type this little paragraph out, or you're composing an email, or you type a command in PowerShell and you press enter. So that's going to be formatted. The raw is going to show you all the non-printable keys. So how many times did I hit the backspace key to delete over these couple words, and then what did I type afterwards? So we can show you the before and after. There are sometimes concerns of, because it is a full-blown keylogger, well, what about our users going to their personal websites? Are we going to capture their credentials? Yes, in post form data. So we give you the option to not capture those passwords right here. Just got to enable that. Next one down is program activity. Much like the websites visited, you're going to get 3 unique time metrics: the active, focus, and total time. So we can determine, are they interacting with business versus non-business related applications? If they're local admins, are they installing applications that are unapproved by IT or security? This will hook in and monitor any new applications even after the agent's been running on the machine. User status, the easiest way to think of this is like a virtual time card. So in a 24-hour graph, or you can customize it for your hours of operations, we'll show you when a user is logged in and active versus logged in and inactive. To give you an idea, let's say I come in at 8 o'clock, I do 30 minutes worth of emails, and then I have a meeting coming up. I lock my desktop. Now I'm logged in and inactive because there's no keyboard mouse activity. I come back from the meeting an hour and a half later, I unlock my desktop, now I'm logged in and active again. Alright, so this is a good tool for line managers, seeing when their employees are coming in and leaving. It's also good indicators. Are they coming in earlier than normal or leaving later than normal? And if they have remote access into the machines, are they logging in at off times of the night? Plus it can pick up system time changes too. Document tracking is a very powerful feature in the sense it's going to show you data movement and data exfil. Again, if you want to know what any of these settings do, click the help. By default, it's going to record cloud storage, and that's Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. All network drives that the user has access to. USB drives. Over here, we can see anything burned to a CD or DVD. For the device types, we can see creating new files, writing to an existing, deleting files, and that might be a concern if employees leaving the organization. Are they deleting all the work from their network share? Renaming files. Let's say I took confidential.xls and I named it something less conspicuous before I plugged in my USB drive and copied it that way, send it up to cloud, maybe use a chat in IM, send it out there, or I compose a webmail and send it out with that new name. And then there's a lot of focus nowadays on cloud and USB, but a lot of folks are starting to forget the old sneakernet method, and that's printing out the document, putting it in their bag and walking out of the building. Perhaps proprietary code, or it could be sales customer lists and so forth. So we'll show you everything related to that printed document: date, time it occurred, what machine, what application, what device, who the user was, how many pages, and what the document name was. I'll show you that too. And then lastly is network activity. The easiest way to describe this one is bandwidth consumption out to the internet. So what users are consuming the most internet bandwidth? And that might be used for locations where there's limited bandwidth and you want to know, are they streaming audio or video, eating up bandwidth during production times? It could also be used to show you what applications are consuming the most internet bandwidth. I've had some customers detect gaming servers running on their network admins' machines, believe it or not, consuming that business bandwidth. So we can see every application. All right, lastly, screen snapshots. Think of this as a surveillance camera or a CCTV camera. You walk into a bank, you go into a convenience store, even cameras are on light poles nowadays. Much like that, we're going to record what's displayed on the user's monitors, and we can capture up to 8 monitors at once. Now this setting by default is set to 4-bit grayscale. The reason for that, it gives you high resolution, but it also reduces the size of the snapshot greatly. Now remember, I mentioned you could create a high risk profile over here. For that one, maybe you're taking it in color because you have that one assigned to an investigation or high risk department, so you want to get more visual representation of what's taking place. Over here is where you configure the snapshot frequency. So down here it takes a snapshot every 30 seconds by default. When there's activity, every 30 seconds it'll take a snapshot. If the desktop or screensaver is turned on and there is no activity, it pauses. So it's not sitting there recording a screensaver, and wasting disk space. Going back to that high risk profile, maybe for this one you set it to every 5 seconds. Again, applied to your high risk users. Gives you more visibility. But the default's 30. What these are up here, additional triggers. So maybe I want to take it every 30 or 60 or 90 seconds, but I want to take a snapshot immediately when a program is opened, or if the Windows title bar changes, which is this here. Or maybe it's the contents of a file that they're scrolling through. Maybe it's a large Excel spreadsheet, and you want to know and take snapshots of that whole spreadsheet as they scroll through it. Of course, these are left and right mouse clicks. Be careful with these because they'll generate a lot of snapshots. Think about how many times you click the left mouse button every day. Down here allows you to take a snapshot of a key is pressed, like delete key or backspace or maybe even the print screen key. So anytime those keys are pressed, it will take a snapshot, and then again at this frequency down here, 30 seconds. Alright, so that's the recorder settings. Now over here under the block tab, when to record is another useful feature. If there's certain organizations that don't want to record their users during maybe the lunch hour. So you can turn this feature on and say, all right, well, we work Monday through Friday up to 11 o'clock. Then from 11 to 12, we have lunch for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it might be. But then we have a second shift that comes in only on Saturdays. We want to record everything that they're doing during that shift. Okay, who to record. What this does is it allows the recorder to turn on and off automatically depending on a user that's logged into a machine. Now this agent, even though it's deployed to one machine, will record everyone logging into it. So there are times where a network admin or a C-level exec may log into that machine and you don't want to record their activity whatsoever. You just come in here, select record only the users listed or record all users except for what's listed. So I would select that one and I would add the admin's user accounts here just by clicking add. Alright, next tab over here is the block tab. So the block tab will allow you to do local style web filtering. You would put in the URLs you want to block. So block what's in this list, maybe competitor websites or If it's a remote user and you only want to force them to get to the websites they should be using, you would just input those business related websites and they'll get to those, but everything else will be blocked. You also can block chat and IM activity. You can block internet access down to a port level, and these are defaults. You see we have quite a few in here, but you can create your own custom port range and block those too. And then lastly is the ability to block a user creating files onto a cloud storage device, such as the Dropbox client or the OneDrive client or the Google client. Okay. Over here in general options, by default the recorder is set to stealth mode, so it's not visible to the user at all. The reason why you might want to uncheck this for some customers is what it will do is down here in the system tray, we'll put a tiny little red block in here, which indicates our recorder is running on there. If they hover over that red block, it does say Veriato 360. Reason why you might want to do that, for deterrence. On the flip side, we'll have some customers that will leave it in stealth mode, and then you can turn on the logon warning here if there's not one already set up in AD. So you would enable that and then click set warning. This is our default message. However, you can customize this with the end user's acceptable use policy that they had their user sign. And if they log into the machine, this pops up, reminds them that they signed that. There might be some type of tool on there monitoring their activity. The other features down here we're not going to talk about. It's really only directed by tech support for you to modify these. Okay, and then of course here down you can change the policy name if you want. Data files. Now what this does is, let's say you have a laptop user and the laptop is disconnected from the network. Even though it's off that network, we still record everything they're doing. It's stored in a hidden location, even from Explorer, and encrypted, so the user can't find it. What these thresholds tell you are how long you want to retain the data before starting to overwrite. So delete data files after 30 days for a maximum of 1 gig, or you can increase or decrease these however you like. So if the laptop's off just for a weekend or maybe for a week, you're pretty much good to go with these default settings. So when that machine comes back into the network, or if the user connects to a VPN, that data that's been stored on the client will be moved from the client up to the Veriato 360 server, and then it's available for review. Once the clients are on there, they record typically for 4 to 5 minutes in a cache file, and then we'll burst that up to the server in a range of 30 seconds. Then it'll record another 4 minutes more and push it up, and it continues doing that as long as it can communicate with the Veriato server. If it can't, it thinks it's disconnected, records locally. Okay, applications. This is where you could actually come in here and exclude or include certain applications from any monitoring. So let's say you didn't want to record an accounting package or an AutoCAD package. You could add those executables in here and exclude it from all monitoring. Under advanced, you don't want to touch any of these settings unless directed by tech support. They're pretty good right out of the box, but sometimes you might run into an issue where a particular application doesn't load and they may tell you, come in here and turn this off. So again, don't touch these unless directed by tech support, or if you're having some issues. They'll tell you what to change in here. Under servers, this is the data throttling. Remember I mentioned record for 4 minutes, burst it up for 30 seconds. So there's the default settings for you. If you want the data to come in much faster than that, you can uncheck it. So as soon as the data is recorded, normally within a minute or two, you're going to start seeing results here in the management console. But the more computers you have, if you have this turned off, the more network congestion you're going to have. So it's enabled by default, and we'll take it for 4 minutes and then burst it up for 30 seconds only, and then do it again. Under client options, this one's kind of important for you to know. It's going to install in a quiet mode by default, so the user won't see it happening. However, it does force a reboot on the client machine. So you got to remember, if you push this during office hours and someone's working on their machine and they're working on a document they haven't saved for an hour, and you push this, it's going to force a reboot with no questions asked, shuts down everything, and then we'll reboot the box. That reboot is required in order for us to start recording. Now what you could do is uncheck it. It'll still install, but it won't record until the user logs out, logs in, or reboots the box. Or it could also be used with a manual setup method, which I'll show you later. And then you could use a third-party deployment tool to make that reboot. So what we have some customers do, we'll create that manual setup, put it with a third-party deployment tool, and run it on Patch Tuesdays. So that way the patches get installed, our agent gets installed, and reboots the box. Done. Fixed file names, that's for our AV exclusions. We already went over that. So if you uncheck this, it's going to randomize the files, and then those exclusions will be null. All right, this stuff down here, this is really going to be for virtual type environments like AppV support, alternative shell support. This might be used in XenApp servers, Citrix XenApp. It could be used for terminal servers as well. In client, this will enable you to enable the client in safe mode. So if they reboot in safe mode to try to circumvent your security measures, this will record what they're doing there too. The last four options down here, you do not want to enable those unless directed by tech support. Okay, record URLs. This one is also very important to show your customers, especially if HR or legal is involved. This will allow you to include or exclude certain websites from any monitoring. Example, banking sites. Maybe we allow our users to browse the personal internet sites during lunch hour, and someone goes to the bank site or checks their healthcare benefits. Maybe you don't want to record that data at all, so add those URLs here, excludes it from all monitoring, and it helps with user privacy. And then the last feature here is program caption. What this essentially does is turns off recording the caption of the program. So if you opened Excel or Word, it's not going to record the caption of it. That gives you an understanding of the recorder policy. Again, it's identical for both Windows and Mac. Now there are some settings in the Mac that aren't configurable like they are for Windows, and they'll be indicated here in red, which I'll show you in a sec. If I go here, see how that's in red, can't adjust it. So there are some limitations for system level settings or more advanced. However, they record exactly the same thing. All right, the last one down here is the Android. To modify, just click on it. By default, it's going to record text messages, and that's inbound and outbound, including timestamping, even if they deleted them. Email, that's got to be connected to Exchange. Phone logs, and this is inbound and outbound, and will also pull from their contacts list the name of the user that they're calling or receiving calls from. Website activity, document activity, again if you're concerned with data movement. Even are able to take snapshots of what's displayed on the device. So geofencing is turned on here, log locations, and apply geofencing, which is configured right here. I'll get to that in a little bit. But essentially what this will allow you to do is put up a fence. So if the user goes into this area or leaves a particular area, you want to know about it. That's what the geofence will do for you. And then you have your options here on how long you want to retain the data before deleting it. Default's 30 days. All right, that sums it up for the recorder policies.